weeks ago. We didn't have the best weather. We stopped because of rain, and then he had like not signed golf ball, but almost big. Right after we stopped. We stopped.
God, you stopped.
Yeah. And we were worried about it. Everybody just sitting out in it, but we were kind of underneath the big oak tree where we parked the bike. So then we're worried about that wall.
That's what issues are.
What you don't know, actually, I've been singing
Yeah, that's the actual paper itself.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Commissioner Cooney.
Present.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Here.
Commissioner Sykes.
Here.
Commissioner Urban.
Here.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Here.
Mayor Hopewell.
Present. For our opening ceremony this evening, we will have an invocation by Reverend Sarah Smith Lee. For the First Congregational Church, I ask you to stand for the invocation and remain standing for the Lord. Good evening, Reverend.
Good evening. Creator and sustainer of all things, look upon and visit the cities of the earth. Renew the ties of mutual regard that form our civic life. Guide our leaders in honesty and strength. Help us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that people of all genders and from various cultures and with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. Amen.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioners, we have one proclamation this evening for Arbor Day. I believe Commissioner Anderson is going to handle this proclamation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is there anyone here to accept the resolution? So I don't have a name here in front of me, so let us know at the microphone.
Todd Pryor, City Kalamazoo Forestry Supervisor.
Great. So this is a proclamation from the City of Kalamazoo recognizing Arbor Day, April 27th, 2018. Whereas the City of Kalamazoo has a long history of joining cities across the nation to improve and expand local tree care, including itself as a Tree City, USA. And whereas the trees we maintain and preserve can reduce erosion by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, provide habitat for wildlife, and produce life-giving oxygen. And whereas the trees we maintain and preserve provide an enjoyable atmosphere and beautify our community. Now therefore I, David Anderson, on behalf of the 52nd City Commission and Mayor Bobby J. Hopewell, do hereby urge all citizens to plant trees and promote their well-being for the benefits they give today and for generations to come by proclaiming April 27th, 2018, Arbor Day in the City of Kalamazoo.
All right, thanks for supporting City Trees. Thanks to the Commission and the community. I'd like to invite everybody to our Arbor Day event Friday the 27th at 2 p.m. Spring Valley Park. Join the mayor and I. We're going to plant some trees, and along with the city's tree committee and the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. Thank you very much.
Commissioners, you may not know that, well, you do know this, that every December every November, we celebrate the holidays in Bronson Park. You get to read a story, and it's Todd and his team that make this place look so extraordinarily amazing. And so I just want to, I know it's Arbor Day, but I want to recognize you for the other work that you do every day for us. So thank you, sir. Commissioners, you have the agenda before you. Are there any changes? Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on items under the consent agenda? That's items under F. That item will need to be moved to the regular agenda. If you have such an item, please indicate at this time.
I'd like to speak to item 15.
F15, okay. All right. Communications Manager Ritzman.
One item tonight. I'd like to invite the public to a City Commission retreat, which will be held on Saturday at the Foundry at 600 East Michigan. The time of the retreat will be from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. and look forward to some time to plan for Kalamazoo's future.
Thank you. The consent agenda, please.
We have 18 items. First, the approval of a contract with Reith Riley Construction Company for the purchase of asphalt paving materials in the amount of $664,400. Next is the approval of a one-year contract extension with Omni Materials Incorporated for the purchase of powder activated carbon in the total amount of $930,000 with a 2018 amount of $542,500. Next is the approval of a one-year contract extension with Waste Management for the loading, hauling, and disposal of belt press solids in the amount of $4,018,074, and approval of a budget adjustment of $813,000 to cover the contract amount. Next, the approval of a 3-year contract with U.S. Lawns, Kalamazoo, for mowing of parks and green spaces in the amount of $271,485. Next is the authorization for the city manager to enter into contracts with ice control salt suppliers as awarded by the state of Michigan for 2018-2019 winter season. We kind of feel like we are starting that early right now, but requirements in an amount not to exceed $450,000. Next is the approval of a contract with Tetra Tech Incorporated for the water system SCADA project, the amount of $232,710. Next is the first reading of amendments to Chapter 33, Streets and Other Public Grounds, Chapter 2, Administration, and Chapter 23, Parks and Recreation of the Kalamazoo City Code of Ordinances. Next is the first reading of an ordinance to amend Section 2-224 of the City Retirement System Ordinance to permit all exempt member non-union employees to retire at age 62 with 5 years of service. Currently, exempt members hired on or after September 1, 2010 may retire at age 60 with 10 years of service. Next is the adoption of a resolution granting a payment in lieu of taxes for Full Circle Communities Incorporated, parcel number 06-16-183-001, pursuant to Section 35-4 of the Kalamazoo City Code. Next is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the city's application for a local bridge program funds for Patterson Street Bridge through the Michigan Department of Transportation. Next is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the city's application of a local bridge program funds for Inkster Avenue Bridge through the Kalamazoo, or for the Michigan Department of Transportation. Next is the adoption of a resolution authorizing the city's application of a local bridge program funds for the Lake Street and Walnut Street bridges through the Michigan Department of Transportation. Next is the adoption of a resolution certifying 800 feet of Harrison Street from Michigan Avenue to the south of the end of the cul-de-sac as a public street in accordance with Public Act 51 of 1951. Next is the adoption of a resolution from the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, Liquor Control Commission recommending approval of a small winemaker license for Nicole Triplett at 1627 South Burdick Street. Next is the approval of a request from Western Michigan University to publicly display fireworks at Himes Field on Saturday, September 15, 2018. Next is the approval of a request from the Kalamazoo Growlers to publicly display fireworks at Homer Stryker Field on June 1, June 8, June 15, June 22, July 3, July 4, July 13, July 27, and August 10, 2018. Approval of the mayor's reappointment of Sue Robinson to the Historic Preservation Commission for a term expiring March 31st, 2021. And finally, approval of the minutes of the City Commission meetings on March 19 and April 2, 2018.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 17 and authorize the city manager to sign 1 through 17 and 19, and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Cunningham,
Support.
supported by Commissioner Anderson.
Which resolution this would be?
Is it 15? Oh, I said that wrong. Yeah. So commissioners want to make sure you know it's 1 through 14 and 16 through 19. My mistake. Okay with the motion? Okay with the support? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban. Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Thank you, commissioners. Motion carried. Mr. Manager, regular agenda, please.
We have the approval of an extension of the seller approval period under the purchase agreement for Lot 9 and authorize the city manager to sign the first amendment to purchase agreement for Lot 9.
Anyone wanting to comment on this item, step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Mark Fry. I live downtown. in Kalamazoo, and very happy to do so. Almost found out I was speaking on fireworks, but I'm glad I'm thinking about another area. First of all, I want to thank you for all of the work. I have just recently started looking at minutes and the time that you put in, and that's been just remarkable. So I thank you for that. I also want to thank the City Clerk Borling for clearing up some questions I had. There was some verbiage that seemed to imply that the sale of Lot 9 was already done. Now I see that it's an extension, and I support that. I saw that in the recommendation, it was in order to get some financial things in place and to make sure that the city and the purchaser were each benefiting, and I believe we are as a city. I live very close to that place, and I would encourage you to build into that is it a 6-month period? However long the extension is. I'd encourage you to build into that a time to talk to neighbors of the new building. That would include some that are business people and talk about how that would impact them, but also for those of us that live very close to that building. It would be good not only just, I think, for us to get information from you, but for you to hear our thoughts. And it would also be a good way for us to build a sense of neighborhood with our new neighbors that will be coming into the new building. That's my concern, and I very much appreciate your time and the chance to speak to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wanting to comment on this item? Hearing no one, Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve and authorize the city manager to sign all documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion? Moved by, are you making a motion?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, moved by.
I have a question, though, that may influence how I word the motion.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask if there's any value in just adding something into the motion that takes into account the request that we just heard. It seems like a prudent thing to do, and it just more or less reaffirm that the Commission wants to have everybody who is interested in downtown development feel that they are participating in that.
Mr. Attorney?
Well, the problem is you're adding a condition that would have to go back to the other entities that have already adopted this. For instance, the building authority passed on this and acted on this last Friday. Now, I think you can do is you can urge that, but as adding it as a condition of the agreement kind of undoes things, and we'd have to have other entities redo what they've done.
I'll talk with the developer this week. I'm sure that it's not a problem.
Okay, with that assurance, I'll move that we approve this extension of the seller-approved period under the purchase agreement for Lot 9 and authorize the city manager to sign the first amendment to purchase agreement for Lot 9.
Moved by Commissioner Urban. Is there support? Support. Support by Commissioner Anderson. Discussion? Clerk Borling, the roll.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. Mr. Manager?
Next, we have the adoption of a resolution setting forth the salaries of the City Commission appointees effective April 16, 2018, and approve lump sum payments.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step to the podium. You'll have 4 minutes. Give your name and whether you live within the city. Seeing no one, Commissioners' requested action is a motion to adopt the resolution. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Sykes, supported by Commissioner Cooney. Discussion? Roll. Commissioner Anderson?
I just want to mention that I feel that we are very lucky as a city to have the great staff that we do have right from the top on down. I don't think it's an easy job anywhere being involved in politics and the result of all that and being at the front end of that on the administration side. And I think our folks here are working hard for the city, want the city to be a great place, as all of us do. So I appreciate that very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Sykes?
Yeah, I'll just follow that up and say, especially as we are moving into a new, that's not what I want to say. As we progress into the future, I think that we're asking staff to do some really hard things, and that, I believe, needs to be compensated, and we need to make sure that we are paying folks competitive wages to really fuel, you know, those sorts of movements. So I am happy to support these increases.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cunningham.
I'd just like to echo my colleagues' sentiments and just acknowledge the fact that not only do they do the administrative side, but they often have to deal with quite a bit of the political side also. And I commend a lot of the work that the staff has been doing. Some really amazing jobs.
Thank you. Any other comments? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. Mr. Manager, you have a report this evening?
Yeah, I just want to highlight what a program that just began yesterday, and we have received some water quality issues, complaints around the community, and just wanted to let everyone know that yesterday began the annual or semi-annual flushing of the water system, and this planned flushing event is a preventative maintenance practice that helps to address water quality concerns. However, during flushing, periods of rust and sediment can be experienced. As we continue to work to quantify and solve the water quality problems, we ask for continued support from the community and we ask that any water concern be brought to our attention directly by calling 269-337-8756 during regular hours, which are 7 to 3:30 p.m., 7 a.m., 3:30 p.m., and the after hours number of 269-337-8148.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. Mr. Attorney, you have a report this evening?
Briefly, Your Honor, I'd like to put the commission on notice that at the retreat they have scheduled for Saturday, I will not be in attendance. On Friday, my son gives his doctoral presentation for pharmacy school, and then we get to move him out of his place on Saturday. So I'll be moving. This will be moving day for me. So I appreciate if you'd let me be excused. Rich Cherry from my office will be subbing in my absence. Secondly, I want to draw your attention to item 7 on the consent agenda. That is something that I have wanted to start for a long time, and some commissioners have been very patient with me in trying to get the review of the city code underway to looking toward decriminalization. This is the first ordinance of what I hope to be several that will start coming on a regular basis before you in terms of updating the city code. And I want to, and I don't want to get lost, and I don't want next meeting for everybody to come out of the woodwork. But the two key changes in that ordinance that I want to highlight are, number one, it will permit a program in which the Parks and Recreation Director can approve the consumption of alcohol, bring your own, at city events in public parks. And also, he can also partner with people who would get a liquor license for a one-time event as well. So that's something that the city of Grand Rapids has done with some success, and we want to try it here in Kalamazoo. And so we had to make some changes in the ordinance to permit that. Otherwise, open and possession of intoxicants is unlawful. The second thing is moving forward on what becomes an issue every winter in terms of clearing sidewalks. And so we're going to put in a system of enforcement. The idea is education and cajoling and asking people to voluntarily clear their sidewalks. The city's going to be just as responsible as anybody else to clear the sidewalks that we have in front of our properties. But enforcement is going to be the last step and the ultimate step. We're going to try to do everything before we actually issue a citation, but it'll be civil infraction. But that is going to be part and parcel of that. Those are the two big changes in this ordinance, and we move things around, like for instance, the Park Advisory Board. We're going to take it out of the Parks and Recreation chapter and put it more in the administrative stuff. And so we're moving things around a little bit, but I want to point those things out to you so if you hear things from the public, it doesn't come as a surprise, and I think the public probably wants to hear that as well, so they're aware of what the city is doing. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Clerk, you have a report?
No, sir.
You have an election coming up
Yes, we do.
before we meet again?
No.
Oh, okay.
The next
ready?
meeting will be the nice date. Yes, we are.
All right, we like that. Okay, thank you very much. We are now at item K, new business, discussion of updating the Bronson Park Master Plan and creating a healing ground in Bronson Park. Commissioner Urban.
Mayor Hopewell. Well, I'm glad to see my interest in this rewarded by agenda time. I think you have in front of you a copy of what I emailed to you, some points that we could have a discussion on. It's not limited to these points, but this is an opportunity for us to reassert our leadership in the area of healing in Kalamazoo, starting with what we do after the fountain is removed, because that's not an issue here anymore, but there's so much more we can do going forward. So I don't know how much time you guys want to devote to this. What I could do is just run through these things, and where we need action, I'll just propose something, and then we can decide whether we just agree on a point of acclamation, just by acclamation, or by consent, unanimous consent. But in one case, I'd like to see us actually put a vote on the record for formal reasons. So let me just start, and you can interrupt anytime. Okay, first of all, I'd like to have the city manager just review for us where we stand now with respect to what we've already done with respect to removing the fountain, what is committed to, and what is yet to be done, so that we have a foundation of knowledge on which to proceed.
Mr. Manager?
Yeah, I will highlight those points. First, just want to draw your attention to the minutes from the March 5th meeting. Put that before you, just so you can, by reference, look at the discussion and the actual what was moved and supported and acted upon at the March 5th meeting. So since that vote on March 5th, a lot of work has been done on planning for the removal of the...
Mr. Manager,
Yeah.
I don't think we have those minutes. That
I may have snagged yours.
do you all? None of the folks have.
Okay. Okay, yeah, there were supposed to be copies up here. I apologize for that. But there is a copy of this if anyone wants to see the wording of that. So since the March 5th vote, the city staff have been working in a multidisciplinary team to address the many topics of implementation of that decision. So I want to start with the archival documentation. So for archiving purposes, the fountain and both pools were professionally photographed, and the photos will be stored on the city's archives, and will be made available to the Kalamazoo Public Library, Western Michigan University, and others. We've also had the entire site scanned with what is called LiDAR, or light detecting and ranging radar, a very detailed and highly accurate digital scan of the pools and the fountains. As far as the removal itself, you may have noticed work has begun on that. The statues of the children in the west pool were removed last week and are being carefully stored. It should be noted that this move was part of the original Bronson Park Master Plan, and those statues will eventually be moved to where Mike the Peacock is right now, and Mike is going to be moved to the corner, kitty corner from the public library, and those moves will happen next summer. Work on the actual removal of the fountain is scheduled to begin next week, and construction fencing will be put up this week around the pools and the fountain. The plan is to carefully remove the statue of the pioneer and Native American, as well as some of the Art Deco panels from the fountain. All these pieces will be carefully stored for the immediate future, and the rest of the fountain will be demolished. Our plan is to leave the concrete rims of the two pools for this summer and have install dirt, sod, and irrigation in those areas to create 2 new lawn areas and a walkway path which will cut into each lawn area. And then our goal is to commence the work next week and to have it completely done by end of May. And the park itself will remain open during the work, but some of the sidewalks may be closed for heavy equipment. So as far as relocation of the statue, we have requested assistance from the Kalamazoo County Public Art Commission and to help find a new location for the statue, preferably somewhere in Kalamazoo. As of tonight, we do not have any permanent home for the statue and the pieces, so again, they will be stored inside in a city facility and until a permanent location can be found. We have been contacted by some outside agencies interested in the sculpture, but we are exploring all local options first for siting of the statue. So that's where we're at on the fountain itself. And I've got some other comments, but if you want to jump off that.
Sure. Well, I'm pretty well satisfied with what you've said as far as it goes, but I'm concerned about the documentation. Photography, I'm not sure is going to be enough to satisfy the historians. They may want measurements in case the whole thing is to be duplicated at some point in the future by some foundation far away. But it's just that we have, this is our last opportunity to do things right with that. So I would urge that that the city touch base with one or more historical groups to be sure that the documentation we have gotten so far is adequate. I think everything else as far as it went sounds pretty good. Another thing I just hear you nodding, and so I don't know if that's going to go out to the people who just listen on radio because they can't hear you nod.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The other thing is about the statue itself. My understanding is it's very easy to remove the top 3 portions of the statue, which take it down to the level of the fountain walls. But the construction mode changes below that. There's reinforcing bars running all through the material that's below that. And so clearly there's much more involved in trying to salvage the whole statue. It seems to me that saving only the top part of it means basically, as somebody said, cutting off the Native American at the knees, which is clearly not something respectful that we want to even symbolically want to be associated with. So I'm hoping that I understand that there is work going on to research how to preserve the whole statue all the way down, which involves a company in town that's pretty qualified to do work like this. But if the expense of doing this whole thing thoroughly and the extra cost of moving the most massive pieces is going to be sizable, I'm worried about the whole thing becoming very costly. Then what we have to face is, well, how, if the statue is to be relocated somewhere else, how does it end up being a complete statue? I mean, part of it would have to be refabricated. And there are techniques that are some that are more approvable than others about how to restore art like that. And so I just want to get some clarity, hopefully before we actually do anything permanent to the base of the fountain, that we have some something on record that says that we've done all we can to minimize the damage to the integrity of the entire statue. That's about as broad as I can make it. It's still probably too vague to satisfy the historians, but I just want to be sure that we do all that we can afford to do, and if we need more time, I'm willing to ask that we delay the actual taking of that statue apart until we have, at least until I have assurance. We could ask the rest of the commission if they want that kind of assurance, that we've explored all the alternatives to minimize damage to its art historical integrity.
You want me to respond? Okay. We have Director Baker and Director Fletcher. I think Director Baker may be able to talk about the concrete part of it and removal or salvaging of and preserving the fountain itself, and Director Fletcher can fill in other details.
Thank you, City Manager. First, to speak to that 3D scan that we talked about, that actually creates a 3D model. That 3D model then is imported into AutoCAD, and those scans are dimensionally correct and across 3 axes to sub-millimeter quality, so less than, I believe, 3/10 or 3/100 of a millimeter is the accuracy of that. So that's actually going to be more correct than the drawings that we have in place. We also have the 1939 original drawings that are stored over in Burdick, the records department, and then we have working copies of those that the staff use. So in terms of the scanning and that history piece of it, that is captured. We can use that to create a 3D model, so that is very accurate. In terms of the efforts to delicately remove statue elements from the fountain, we have a company in place that is going to be removing the entire vertical sections that consist of the Native American and the Pioneer. There's also a plan to attempt to disassemble as much as we can of kind of the turret or the horizontal elements of that statue. Those are built in vertical series of horizontal elements, which are pinned in place, but unfortunately have been exposed to years and years of corrosion and effects of the weather. We're not entirely sure how well that will come apart, and we're not entirely sure our ability to support that concrete once it comes off. That concrete has a tremendous amount of compressive strength, but has 0 tensile strength. So we do have some challenges in trying to replicate or move the entire statue as is. So some of our goals going into this, certainly with the artistic elements of it, to preserve the Pioneer, to preserve the Native American, and to preserve as much as we can of that turret structure, and then of course the demolition that is also scheduled to occur. So
the only thing I would add is that we have communicated with all the people that have and groups that have events coming up in the park to make sure they know and understand exactly what's happening. The other part that I would say is that, and I think Director Baker would agree, once we start to take it apart, there will be some unknowns, and we'll have to just kind of see what happens. And that's where the experts come in, talk to us, tell us, what we can't do. And I'd like to commend Director Baker's staff person, Ryan Stoughton, who has done a great job kind of coordinating this effort and communicating, and we've had several meetings, and there's been a lot of information shared, and there's a good team of people working on this, and we're going to make sure we get this part of it right.
Thank you. I guess one small thing I would like to add is there's some folks in the community who are art historical experts, and I think it might be courteous just to be sure that you keep them informed. I know you don't have to. It's kind of like special favors for, but for a small part of the healing effect of all of what we're doing, it might be worthwhile to make a special effort to reach out to the art historical community, maybe through the Public Art Commission, for example, and others. It's just a suggestion. And maybe you're doing that already.
Yeah,
I
to some
expect
extent.
you are.
Yeah, to some extent. The Historical Preservation Commission was updated on
Okay,
at
yes.
least the scanning portion of it. And I know Sharon Ferraro, who obviously has a lot of those contacts in the community, has been talking to people in the community as well.
All right, good, thank you. I'm done. Going on to another issue, concerning what the City Commission can do to maximize the likelihood that the decision to remove the NLA complex will have a healing and reconciling effect on our communities. I use the word communities deliberately. We do have several communities. We'd like to have one. But we have certainly the Native American community, which has been removed, whose descendants still live in the area. And we have communities within our city who are not Native American, who also feel separate. So I want to call your attention to a two-pager that I think all of you saw earlier last month from the Education Committee. They're titled Vision and Recommendations from the Bronson Park Education Committee. And on the second page, near the end, they listed some possibilities of what could be done to going forward, even after the decision to remove the statue. All three of those things are still possible, and maybe others as well. I'd like to get a sense from the Commission the degree to which you'd like to have the Education Committee continue in operation and to continue to explore these options and others that may come to them, to do at least as much as they had originally planned, at least as much. And if it's only as much, I hope it's done with much enthusiasm and much public support. So that's what I'm asking. I invite your comments.
Commissioner Sykes?
Yeah, I won't speak for everybody, but I am absolutely looking forward to their work in the future, and definitely am committed to these three pieces listed under the recommendation, and then some, right, if there are some other pieces that need to be added. I would also add to the conversation that I know there are a handful of folks who are residents who are also Indigenous who would like to join in on that conversation and help in any way that they can, and be a part of that. So I, fully support us staying committed to this process, and also ask that maybe we grow it a little bit.
Okay, all right. So, I don't feel that we have to prolong this, but I do want to give people a chance to voice their opinions. I'd like to encourage and invite you, my colleagues, to use this opportunity to express their feelings about the opportunity we have now before us.
Commissioner?
So definitely strong commitment to remembering our history, to remembering the Native American people that were here, and I thought that was understood. That even though the statue was going to be removed, we were going to keep all the elements that were going to remind us of the history of our people and even enhance it, as Commissioner Sykes said. So I think we're all on board with that.
Okay, good. Okay, fine. Then I want to go to the third item, which I want to request an action on this. I'd like for this city commission to reaffirm its desire to, for the education committee to continue its work. I think that it's a matter of just going on record for that. But also to direct the mayor to compose a letter to the tribal council inviting that group to continue its involvement with the education committee. They apparently would like to have some reassurance that they're still wanted and needed in this work, because we have changed direction. We kind of made a pretty major mid-course correction in the Bronson Park restoration work. And since we're dealing with a foreign sovereign nation, not a foreign nation, but a sovereign nation here, we need to be a little more formal than we might be otherwise. And so with your permission, I'd like to move that the city commission direct the mayor to invite the tribal council to continue its work with the education committee.
We have a motion by Commissioner Urban.
Support.
Support. Anyone in the audience wanting to comment on this item, please step forward. You have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Good evening.
Good evening. Chris Wilmot, 1407. I'm going to keep this short. I've heard more about the concern for the Historical Society than I've ever heard for the concern for the entire Edison neighborhood since I've been coming to this city commission. And I would love to come to this city commission and hear the kind of concern that you guys have for the historical foundation for the kids in my neighborhood.
Anyone else wanting to comment on this item? Seeing no one, commissioners, discussion. Commissioner Anderson.
Just a question about what has been communicated thus far. I think there was already some discussion about administration communicating with the tribe and others. So could you give us a sense of what has occurred?
So since the March 5th meeting, there seems to be universal agreement, as we recognize tonight, that especially as it pertains to Native American history, that work should continue and be enhanced. And the Education Committee on the Bronson Park project continues to meet and is made up of representatives from the community, the tribe, and the city. And they're continuing to develop their plans. Certainly, we can ask them to start incorporating and thinking about the page 2, which obviously they are thinking about because that came from them, and help them build that into their educational work and how that works. The thing that needs to be done yet is finalizing the plans and budgeting and fundraising. So with these expanded endeavors, that'll have to be incorporated, and then that work can begin. So I think that fits in with what you're talking about and what's been done and to date.
Has there been an official communication from the city to tribal council?
No.
Nothing?
Okay. Nothing formal.
Other discussion? Clerk Burling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Urban.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Knott.
Yes.
Mayor Hopewell.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Commissioner Cooney.
Yes.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Yes.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Motion carried. Commissioner Urban?
The other item I had on this little list was seeking the commission's advice to city staff on the disposition of the Iannelli statue, and I think we've kind of covered that already pretty much. Basically, I got some assurances that pretty well satisfied me that we're in contact with the historic preservation folk and making sure that we're doing all we can to make the best of a situation that's pretty disastrous from an art historical standpoint, but very encouraging in the sense of the possibility for healing our community. I just want to add something that came to me in the course of all of this discussion, that the way this issue got resolved has pluses and minuses to it. What seems to have happened here is, for the first time in recent memory, the white privileged community of the city didn't get all it expected to get. But we survived it, right? In fact, a lot of folks are growing and learning on that account, and we have an opportunity to do even more of that now that we've made this decision. So we have a wonderful opportunity to make lemonade out of a lemon. And that's part of why I wanted to bring all this up and give you all a chance to express, if you feel so inclined, to support that its sentiment, or to rephrase it, or to modify it in any way you'd like. Sure.
On this area. So, we have the Kalamazoo Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation Enterprise right now going on, and fortunately that really fits in well with what we're talking about here with the fountain. So we've met with representatives from the foundation, and it's my intent and commitment to not only look and focus on the physical elements, but also the healing side as part of that work, and certainly open to ideas from the commission and how that plays out. But so we will certainly incorporate that into that side of the planning.
Good. Good. I feel a little awkward. I feel like this is a one-man show here, but I'm also sensing that there's a lot of kind of tacit agreement with what I'm saying. And if I'm wrong about that, speak up, because we really have an opportunity to kind of do some serious healing. Just as not that it's that central to all of Kalamazoo, but it's indicative of a direction. And sometimes that's what can start things. And that's the way I view it.
Commissioner Sykes.
Yeah. What do I want to say? Jack, I appreciate you you bringing up this conversation. I think it's an important one. I think we're all quiet because we're all in agreement. And I know that some of us expressed those feelings the night that we took the vote for removal, and even prior to that. I remember specifically Vice Mayor Knott asking that we keep a focus on that throughout this process. So I don't anticipate or believe, I'm seeing all the nodding heads, I think we're all on the same page. But I will say thank you for bringing it up again, because healing is so important. And I think healing work and conversations around healing are going to be important in all of our work moving forward, not just the fountain. So I'm glad that the commission is in a position to help lead on this. And I'm excited for what the future holds in our community as we dive into that a little bit more intentionally. So thanks for bringing it up, and I think we're all in agreement, and were when we made the vote, and I look forward to all the future opportunities.
Exhaust the things that I wanted to bring up. Thank you very much for your attention.
Okay. Commissioners, we are now at citizens' comments on any item this evening. Any citizen wanting to comment, step forward. You'll have 4 minutes. Give us your name and whether you live within the city. Kenny.
It's a turn, but I guess it's me again. Printouts are for you, the pictures you gotta share. I got a lot of emotion coming into this, so I'm gonna say the first thing that's got me the most pissed off about this. I want you guys to look around my neighborhood. Y'all booted me out on 111. I want you to look at the dropout rate around me. Because I don't know the totals, but I have a good idea. And that's why I'm ready to scream. I really want to tear this damn thing off. Those pictures are what my basement looked like when your staff called CPS and tried to say that I had too much shit in my basement to clean your flooding out. I was flooded twice because a city meter broke. Every step of the way, you people have lied to me. I've came up to the city commission. I'm giving you guys copies of those because no elected officials are on it, so that's not on y'all tonight. This is the last time I am warning you. You need to get your employees in check. I am sick of the cars outside. I am sick of not getting any information. I am sick of not having any water, and I am damn sick tired of being lied to. I'm telling you not for me. I'm telling you on the kids in my neighborhood. You get your little people that got a raise and get them to figure it out. And after that, you can come and fix all the damage that you did to my house. And after that, stay out of the way when I'm trying to help the kids. By the way, September 4th, 2012, me and others got arrested for an event trying to tell the city there was a homeless problem coming for the children. Maybe y'all better check the headlines while you talk to your trusted employees.
Anyone else wanting to address the commission this evening? Seeing no one, we are at commissioners' comments. Commissioner Sykes. Commissioner Anderson. Commissioner Cooney.
I see Todd Pryor stayed, and I would like to add my voice thanking him for all the wonderful work that he has done with the trees in this community for so long. Thank you, Todd. And I would like to honor Frank Warren. This time of the night, I'm usually bracing myself for what Frank's going to say when he works up to that microphone. But he's not there tonight. But I want to thank Frank Warren for alerting me and raising my consciousness about the situation with veterans in our community. I think that he did a wonderful job on that, and I'm very grateful to him, and I'm grateful for all the things that he did with his life.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Erb.
Thank you, Mayor Hopewell. I would like to echo Commissioner Cooney's comments about Frank Warren. He certainly educated me and did a good job at holding me accountable for showing up at Memorial Day events and paying attention to his issues. He had a rigor about him and a gruffness about him that was a little discomforting, but people could see after a while of how he conducted himself that he had a big heart. And to have rigor and a big heart is a nice combination, and I'm going to remember him for a good while. That's all.
Commissioner Cunningham.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to echo the sentiments in regards to a fallen soldier, somebody who was a warrior in our community, a warrior for himself, and a warrior for our citizens, Mr. Frank Warren. To my colleagues, I was able to send some plants over to Whitley Memorial Funeral Home on behalf of the City Commission.
Thank you for doing that, Commissioner. Vice Mayor. I attended Frank's funeral along with Commissioner Urban, and it was an amazing event. A number of his colleagues, fellow veterans came to honor him and pay tribute to him and the life that he led. And, I had never met his son, had an opportunity to do that. He has two sons. Didn't know that he had two sons, and one of them spoke, and it was heartwarming to see. I know that they're missing their dad quite a bit right now, and normally we wouldn't be because he would be here. So if you keep his missus in your thoughts and hearts and minds, I'm sure she would appreciate it. With that, we are adjourned.